Today on the French press. No, I can't do that to Julia. We're doing French press coffee today. All right, French press coffee. French press coffee is coffee made in a French press. Sorry if that sounds reductive. A French press is a carafe, usually glass, that has a plunger with a mesh strainer on the end, and it goes up and down. Whoop, 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 whoop. That's the French press. The topic came up because in our one subscriber special, our very special guest asked about the French press, and I thought that'd be a good one to cover here. We did cover French press in the series before it was public, the private episodes, but I think it's good to go over again since it's so foundational. French press coffee tends to be bolder and darker in flavor than pour-over coffee. French press is what's called an immersion brewing method. We put the coffee in, we put the hot water in, and we let it sit for a while. In our case, about 14 minutes. That does a couple things differently. Because we're not constantly replenishing the hot water, it's a slower brew method because the water gets colder over time once it just sits out and chills there. It also allows a different set of flavors to be extracted. One other notable thing about the French press, if this is something that you don't like, is that this mesh filter does a pretty good job at keeping coffee grounds out, but it's not perfect. So there may be a bit of sludge at the bottom of the cup. We have a few things that we can do to mitigate that though. And the other thing about French press coffee is while it is delicious, it can be a bit slow. So for this episode, I wanted to find something to do during that time. So in this 14 minutes of waiting, we will be making a from scratch homemade baked good during that time. I know, I like it. So to do the French press coffee, first you take your boiling water, or near boiling water, about 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Take your empty French press, put it on a scale. We're going to take 20 grams of medium ground coffee. I go with the same grind as I use for pour over. Some people go much coarser. There is a lot of room for experimentation, but with a slow brewing method like this, I find this is just fine. This method, by the way, is based on James Hoffman's Ultimate French Press. I'm gonna go ahead and say this is a kind of okay French press method. So we're gonna add our 20 grams. We're gonna zero out the scale. And then we're going to add 300 grams of hot water. You don't need to really swirl it around. You don't need to let it bloom for any amount of time like you would a pour over cup. But it does help to make sure that everything's getting wet and there's nothing unmixed or unstirred there. There we go, 300 grams. Once we have this done, go ahead and let this sit uncovered for 4 minutes. I'm gonna set a timer right now for 4 minutes. All right, and you can either chill or start making some French crepes. The first step in making French crepes is to turn a 10-inch pan on medium-low on the stove and let it heat up. Next up, we're going to make a single serving of crepes for breakfast for one. I found that a lot of recipes are kind of difficult to make for just one person, but this one ended up working out pretty well that I developed. So we're going to take either a bowl or a mini food processor if you got one, and we're going to blend our batter together. We're going to start with 2 tablespoons flour, 1 teaspoon sugar, 3 tablespoons milk. The order doesn't matter too much. As with many crepes, this will make a very wet, loose batter. And we don't have to worry too much about gluten development. We are going to blend it. A little pinch of salt. Optionally, some vanilla extract if you desire, and 1 egg. That was the toughest part of the recipe, is you can't really do half an egg. Then we're going to put the lid on and start by pulsing a little bit. Then when it's mostly combined, we can go ahead and let it blend. All right, once that's done, we let that sit until the next step. Our 4 minutes is up, so time for step 2 of the French press. We are now on to the stir step. So all we do is stir this nice top crust that has developed here and let everything sink to the bottom. By this point, the water has cooled so much, you stop that. The water has cooled so much that it is no longer extracting major flavors from the coffee. Flavor will develop a little bit as we go, but it's no longer hot enough to say do a pour over with. Now we do have all this scum up top, crema as some call it. As much as every coffee lover hates to admit this, this is a lot of CO2 and it doesn't taste great. It looks great, has excellent mouthfeel, but in general, even with espresso, we can often improve the quality of a cup of coffee by removing it. So let's just skim all this scum off the top. There we go. Now we will get ready for the press portion of the French press. Watch carefully. We are going to push the top on, and with immense power and speed, that's it. That's all we're gonna do. We're not gonna press it any more than that. That is the maximum allowable pressing of the French press. We are going to now let this sit for 10 minutes and finish making our crepes. Now that our batter has rested and our pan has preheated, we're going to take the butter out of the microwave where I put it so the cats don't eat it. We're gonna be making 3 crepes. So I have 3 half tablespoons of butter. We're gonna put the first one in. Let it melt and sizzle a little bit. You can go up to medium heat if you need. You definitely don't want to go too hot here. Give that a nice little swirl. Now we're going to add 1/3 of the batter. Swirl that around into a circle. If you have a authentic wooden French crepe rake where you can do the fancy thing you see on TV where they make it into a circle, you can do that. I don't have that. We're gonna let these cook for about 1 minute on the first side and only about 30 seconds on the second side. You'll notice that the batter on top that was previously liquid has already set into a solid. Nice flip, there we go. We're not looking for too much color or browning on these, just to get them set a little bit. Ooh, look at that bubbling. Bubbling butter. If you want to do this while they're still in the pan, we can roll it a little bit. If you want to do that on the plate, we can do that there too. And then place that onto a nice waiting plate. Time for half tablespoon of butter number 2. And batter dose number 2. I tend to underestimate the amount of batter I need to put in the first crepe and overestimate the amount in the second crepe. I don't think it matters, it's still crepes. I often see crepes not cooked on the other side. There's enough heat to cook any egg or whatever else you put in there on the second side, but I think a little flip is good to speed this process up. We only have a few minutes remaining here. This is, after all, French press French crepes. There we go, nice little roll. The final half tablespoon of butter. And all the remaining batter. Looks good, let's flip it. Ooh, pre-curling. That works to our advantage. There we go, looks nice. Now to top those off, we can go ahead and sprinkle on a little powdered sugar. Always a great accompaniment to crepes. Or some sort of other sugar or syrup. I have here rum syrup. This is delicious stuff. Just a little squeeze of that over the top, and that's looking nice. Now for the coffee, I wanted to do the close-up for this reason. Still, do not press further than this. We do have one issue that may happen. Sometimes a airlock forms, and even if you dump this out the whole way, you'll have to stand there for like a minute looking like a dumb idiot with no coffee coming out of your coffee pot while it pours. Let's see if that happens now. Okay, we got the first little bit. Now note that no coffee is coming out. It's going to take a moment for this airlock right here to break. Oh, there it goes. Now, do not tilt the French press pot more than this. If we hold it just like this, and maybe a little bit more once we get to the bottom, all the sediment will stay at the bottom, or most of it, and won't come out into our cup. So we can just gently tilt a little bit more. A little bit more. And we still got a little bit left in the bottom, but if we leave it there, we'll leave all this sediment and goop behind. And there we have French press coffee. It's very popular, it's guaranteed to attract guests, and we also made a full set of crepes for one in the meantime. So no one can say that coffee making is a waste of time anymore. You can clearly fill that space with whatever you need. This syrup that I have on this is delicious. It's a rum syrup. So let me give it a taste. Delicious. Not too eggy. Still tender, so wonderful. The rum syrup is a really great addition here. So to make that, it's like simple syrup. Simple syrup is, as its name suggests, pretty easy. You just take 1 part sugar and 1 part water, and they don't dissolve on their own, so you have to heat them up in a pot on the stove just until the sugar dissolves. Rum syrup is the same way. You just put it until it dissolves, although water boils at 100 degrees Celsius and ethyl alcohol boils at 76 degrees Celsius, so one's going to boil before the other, but the sugar dissolves. And it's actually not that simple. I think that could probably be a whole episode on its own. Actually, we haven't covered simple syrup yet on either the private episodes or these public ones, so maybe that would be a good idea for next episode. And if we have time for it, after simple syrup, we can go over complicated syrup. Let's try the coffee. Slightly bitter, a little bit acidic, some hiss to it, but the coffee's good. It's nice and bold. It's a clean cup still. It's not greasy or muddy, although with any metal filter technique without paper filtering, you are going to get more actual oil in the cup, which for anyone that is attracted to fats and maybe doesn't care about or can't taste sugar, that's probably actually going to get them to come to your cup and lick it when you're not looking, so please be careful. If you're a more normal human being and you have stuff to do in the morning, like getting dressed and combing your hair, French press is also a good technique for that because you can start a pot and only tend to it once while you're doing normal person stuff, unlike me. But if you do decide to make French press French crepes and a nice French press cup of coffee, I hope you enjoy it. See you next time.